What if I told you there's a planet where a single day lasts longer than an entire year? It sounds impossible, but it's absolutely true. And that's just one of the incredible space facts you're about to discover. Stay until the end, because the last one is almost impossible to believe. Imagine waking up on Venus and realizing you haven't even finished one day, but an entire year has already passed. Venus takes about 243 Earth days to complete one full rotation on its axis. But it only takes 225 Earth days to orbit the Sun. That means a year on Venus is actually shorter than a single day. Scientists believe this happened because Venus rotates incredibly slowly, and unlike most planets, it spins in the opposite direction. If you could survive on Venus, you would celebrate New Year's Day before experiencing a single sunrise and sunset. And believe it or not, this is only the beginning. Imagine a planet where the weather forecast doesn't warn you about rain, it warns you about glass. It sounds like science fiction, but it's completely real. On the distant exoplanet HD 189733b, powerful winds race through the atmosphere at more than 5,000 miles per hour. Those extreme winds force tiny particles of silicate, the same material found in glass, to fall sideways like razor-sharp rain. If you were somehow standing there, the glass wouldn't fall gently from the sky. It would blast across the planet at incredible speeds, making survival impossible. As terrifying as that sounds, the next fact is even harder to believe. Imagine holding just 1 teaspoon of material, and discovering it weighs around 6 billion tons. It sounds unbelievable, but it's completely real. That material comes from a neutron star. A neutron star is what's left behind after a massive star explodes in a supernova. Its gravity is so powerful that it crushes matter tighter than almost anywhere else in the universe. Scientists estimate that just 1 teaspoon of neutron star material would weigh around 6 billion tons on Earth. It's one of the densest objects ever discovered. And somehow, what comes next is even more unbelievable. Black holes are so powerful that they don't just pull in matter, they can actually slow down time. The closer you get to a black hole, the slower time passes compared to someone far away. This phenomenon, known as time dilation, was predicted by Einstein's theory of relativity and has been confirmed by scientists. If you could safely orbit near a black hole for a while and then return to Earth, many more years could have passed here than you experienced. It sounds like science fiction, but it's real physics. But as strange as that is, the next fact completely changes the way you've probably seen our sun your entire life. Most people think the sun is yellow. But that's actually an illusion. From space, the sun appears white because it emits all the colors of visible light together. The yellow color we see from Earth is caused by our atmosphere scattering the sunlight before it reaches our eyes. So the giant star at the center of our solar system isn't really yellow at all. And if you thought space was full of strange colors, wait until you hear what's missing from it. Space is almost completely silent. No matter how massive an explosion is, you would hear absolutely nothing. That's because sound needs particles, like air or water, to travel. Space is almost a perfect vacuum, leaving almost nothing for sound waves to move through. Even if 2 enormous stars collided right in front of you, your eyes would witness an incredible explosion, but your ears would hear nothing. But if you think silence is surprising, wait until you discover what's happening to our own moon. You might think the moon has always stayed exactly where it is. But that's not true. Every single year, the moon moves about 3.8 centimeters farther away from Earth. It may not sound like much, but over millions of years, that tiny distance adds up. Scientists measure this movement using mirrors left on the moon by the Apollo missions. One day, total solar eclipses will no longer happen because the moon will appear too small to completely cover the sun. But if you think that's surprising, wait until you see what Mars has been hiding. Mars is home to the largest volcano ever discovered in our solar system. It's called Olympus Mons. This enormous volcano stands about 22 kilometers tall, making it nearly 3 times taller than Mount Everest. Its base is so wide that it would cover an entire country. Because Mars has weaker gravity, volcanoes were able to grow far larger than anything on Earth. But even a giant volcano isn't the most extreme place in the universe. The coldest known place in the universe is the Boomerang Nebula. Its temperature drops to about -272 degrees Celsius. That's even colder than the natural temperature of outer space itself. Scientists believe the gas inside the nebula expands so rapidly that it removes almost all of its heat. It's one of the few places in the universe that's colder than space. And somehow, something else out there is even more difficult to imagine. One of the largest stars ever discovered is called Scuti. If it replaced our Sun, its surface would stretch far beyond the orbit of Jupiter. More than 5 billion suns could fit inside its enormous volume. Compared to stars like Scuti, our Sun looks surprisingly small. But if you think that's enormous, wait until you hear what astronauts bring back from space. Astronauts often say that space has a very unusual smell. Of course, you can't actually smell space while you're outside a spacecraft. But after returning from a spacewalk, many astronauts have noticed that their suits carry a strange scent. Some describe it as burnt metal, while others compare it to welding fumes or seared steak. Scientists believe this smell may come from high-energy particles reacting with the materials on the spacesuits. But if you think that's strange, wait until you hear this. Venus is actually hotter than Mercury. That sounds impossible since Mercury is much closer to the Sun. But Venus has an incredibly thick atmosphere filled with carbon dioxide. It traps heat so efficiently that the planet reaches temperatures of around 465 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to melt lead. But that's still not the only impossible-looking planet in our solar system. Saturn is the only planet that could float on water. It's enormous, but its average density is actually lower than water. If you could find an ocean big enough, Saturn wouldn't sink. It would float like a giant ball. But even that isn't the most unbelievable fact. Scientists estimate that there are more stars in the observable universe than all the grains of sand on every beach and every desert on Earth combined. The observable universe contains hundreds of billions of galaxies, and each galaxy holds billions or even trillions of stars. The numbers are so enormous that they're almost impossible for the human mind to imagine. And somehow, the universe is still getting bigger. The universe has been expanding ever since the Big Bang around 13.8 billion years ago. In fact, distant galaxies are moving away from us every second. Scientists believe this expansion is even accelerating because of something called dark energy. The more we discover about the universe, the more we realize how much remains unknown. So, which space fact surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible facts.